welcome to the Black Sun Syndicate, a division of the Kolat Information Network. I'm your host, Baylan Skoll, Mercenary for Hire. Today, I'm going to go over the deck that I piloted to a top 4 finish at a 1K slash Store Championship, as well as the winner of a Store Championship. All right, so let's look at the initial list. This is the list I took to Nat 20 Games 1K in Crossville, Tennessee. This was last Saturday. Um, I will tell you it was a very small event. Only 8 people showed up because, unfortunately, um, there was the SCG Richmond event that had a Star Wars 4K on Saturday and a 1K on Sunday. And many from the Cookville and Knoxville groups decided to go there. So there were very few at this event. Now, um, Leia has been my preferred aggro deck during this um, initial launch um, because I feel like the action economy that you get with her mirrors a similar action economy that we got um, with Ray in Star Wars Destiny, being able to take multiple actions at once. Um, Whereas dang near every other leader is, or most of the other cards are one for one action, one thing. And so I have preferred her ability to um, put tons of damage on a base quickly, and then I can claim, and if my opponent is at one of those states where they cannot completely wipe my board, then I'm just going to do the same thing over again next turn. And so it's very, very efficient. Um, Now, I'm also running a 30 hit point base. There's a reason for that. I believe that the 30 hit point base is much better than Tarkin Town. And the only reason that I believe that is because the matchup versus aggro, if you're playing a 25 hit point base, there is much more of a chance of you losing um, because of the pressure that Sabine and other Leias can put on. Um, this is, I will say it's fairly standard. I was only running 2 Medal Ceremony and 2 Rebel Assaults, 2 Spec Force soldiers, and everything else, and the 2 Partisan Insurgents, and everything else was a 3 of. Um, and my sideboard here was Bright Hopes, U-Wing Reinforcement, our Mandalorian ship that blows up an upgrade, and 2 Wolves. So a 3-2-3-2. All right. So this is how that event went. Round one, I played a Sabine Green with ECL. Um, Russell, I believe, was his name. He's from McMinnville. I ended up winning 2 games to 1, and the 2 biggest reasons was I ended up getting a Rebel Assault, which added an additional 2 damage, and then I aggressively claimed when I had lethal on board, um, and then simply activated Leia's ability and swung with 2 units in the base, and that was game. Um, Round two was a Baba Green ECL, and th- that match was not particularly close. This was another player from the McMinnville area. I apologize, I didn't get everybody's name, and I'm sorry. Um, I lost the first game. Game two, um, we did catch something. Um, he played a cunning, uh, which uh, in his deck would have cost 6. Well, he played it for 4, but he did not know the rule for um, aspect penalties um, apply. It only sees your base and your leader. So apparently there was some misunderstanding there. We had already gone to the next turn, and so he decided to concede game two to me, and we went to game three. I had, you know, I wasn't winning game two anyway. Uh, it's just this deck is so good in me. It's bad. So we chalked that up as a loss, and we move on. Round three was against Iden Red, which I think Iden Red is actually the better version of this deck. Um, it adds, um, since you're running fewer units, green doesn't, in this version, overwhelming barrage is not great. Um, so it was every single target removal spell possible. Um, he had the Avengers. He had the Palpatines. What was the other one? The other major one that he had was he was running bombing runs, main deck, and so I lost game one pretty handily. Like once he stabilized, I was like I have nothing in game one that will slow you down. Um, Game two, I went first. I think I went first one, and he stabilized very quickly, and it didn't matter. Game two, I went first, and I ended up getting to play both wolves in that game, which stopped him from healing uh, on. I won't say it was consecutive turns, but it might have been there might have been 2 turns between it. Um, and I was able to finish that game fairly quickly. So we go to game three, and my draw is very aggressive, um, and so I'm splitting from space in a ground unit so that I don't get blown out by bombing run. Um, I know um, um, there was at least once in that game where I played Wolf right before when I had initiative right before he was going to play a Vigilance, so he had to hold it an extra turn. Um, he healed quite a bit in that match, even with that. And the card that came in clutch was Ewing Reinforcement. I was able to Ewing since I was unfortunately after the initial surge, um, I kept holding some cards back if I could, only playing one thing a turn until I got to uh, the Ewing reinforcements to drop multiple units in play, and he ended up blowing through. Um, two super laser blast, and one bombing run in that game. Somehow, I still found a way to win that game. I'm still in shock that that was even anywhere remotely close. Top four, I was the 4 seed, had to play the 1 seed. I had to play Matthew Norton. Matt and I go back quite a ways. We were both students at Tennessee Tech at one point. Um, so we've known each other for quite a while. He was on Luke Green, and the amount of healing that he has in that deck, two wolves are not going to stop it. Um, he has less removal than um, the Vader blue or the Iden blue or Iden red decks, but it's still way too much for my deck to handle. 20 is as close as I got, um, and so that was pretty much that. All right, so let's talk about underperforming cards. Um, for me, it was Benthic Two Tubes, Partisan Insurgent, and Steadfast Battalion. So Benthic Two Tubes being a 2/2 for 2 on turn one. People want to get it off the board as quickly as possible, and having a 2/2 body means that even most of the 2 drops in the game um, can take him out very, very easily. Um, Partisan Insurgent, the 1/4 body for 2 was fine, but this was another one that didn't always have a aggression character in play, so it had to give it raid 2. And then Steadfast Battalion. Um, this is extremely good in the decks that are running ECL to ECL it out there. Unfortunately, in a Leia red deck, uh, this was fine, but I've decided that there had to be better options. Um, Cards that overperformed. Rebel Assault, even though I was only running 2 copies, overperformed. Um, even though you have Leia's ability, sometimes the extra 2 damage is more important. And so this card was great. And then Bright Hopes. Bright Hopes helped me stymie some air attacks for a while. It was really good into the aggro mirrors. Uh, Even though obviously I only played the one, but um, at this event. But these are the cards that I looked at that I thought were the needed a deeper look. So let's talk about SCG Richmond. Um, so this was top 16 deck list from another of my college friends at uh, um, from Cookville, Blake Edmondson. He's known for playing aggro decks, and he's usually very good at them, as you can see. So when this list came up, I started looking over uh, things that he had differently. Obviously, he's Sabine Green, where I'm Leia Red, but we are in the same color pairs. So I wanted to take a look to see just how, if there was something in here that might help um, with my matchups. And surprisingly, there was a few. Um, the R2D2s looked very, very good. Even so, this is a 1/4 for 1, so it's slightly better than Partisan Insurgent. Um, um, as far as the floor goes, but when played on attack trigger, what it pushed it over the edge. We'll get into that when I get into the next section of the tournament report. Um, the Now I noticed he also had one Bright Hope in the main. This was great for mirror busting. And then you also had one Admiral Akbar. Um, the other noticeable, uh, obviously he was running 3 and 3. Usually Sabine runs 3 Rebel Assault because it wants to draw that when necessary. Um, Medal Ceremony. Um, in matchups where this is bad, you can just simply resource it, and it's fine. The other one is General Dodonna, which is another mirror breaker. Um, and actually, I will tell you, it was good against Control too, because it was another card that threw off math. Sideboard, he's got another batch of one-ofs of the Spec Force Soldier, the Heroic Sacrifice, and the Admiral Akbar. Um, the Star Vipers, got a playset of Star Vipers, 2 Zabarelius, which in ECL is great, and 2 more home ones. So obviously he wanted to break the mirror. Makes a lot of sense. So after looking through his list and trying to see what holes I had, I decided to remove the benthic 2 tubes, um, the Steadfast Battalion, the 2 Partisan Insurgents, and then I removed 1 Alliance X-Wing and 1 Heroic Sacrifice. I The X-Wings were, I mean, they were fine. They were a fine play, but I was looking to try to fix some other stuff, and I still had 11 space units. So cards added: 3 R2D2s, 2 General Dodonnas, 2 Rebel Pathfinders, 2 Guerrilla Attack Pods, and the 3rd Rebel Assault. I opted for the Rebel Pathfinders um, because um, against control, you need ways to bust shields and sneak past their sentinels. And so I thought adding more saboteurs and ways to get around that was better. So it meant that my entire main deck is now a 4 damage, 4 cause I believe in. There's no holes in that in the main deck now. So this was the final list. Again, that's pretty. um, it. I was quite satisfied going into the event that this would be a good deck list, and let's just see if I could pilot it. All right, so round one, I play a Vader Blue with a 30 hit point base. The gentleman was from um, Kentucky, about an hour's north of Bowling Green, and was quite a drive. But he said this was the latest event on the schedule for a store championship that was within 3 hours, and so he took this one. uh, I think after he stabilizes in game one, I scoop, go to game two. Um, he did not draw nearly as much remove, didn't have many plays early. Um, he also did not realize about the ruling for if he passes, which he did, passed to me, I didn't have another action I wanted to take. I claimed the initiative, and he goes to take another action, and I said, well, you can't because the rules state if you pass and I claiming the initiative is the same thing as passing, and we had to we had to dig up the rule book and show it, and it technically it is. And the gentleman had played Destiny, and of course I don't think that was the rule in Destiny if I remember correctly. Um, but in any event, I finished that game off. We go to game three. Um, the game ends up going to time, and I think check my notes. Um, he can't get me to to um, to 30 damage on my base. Um, and I had somewhat rebuilt. So he decides to concede to me, which I told him I appreciated. He didn't have to do that. But that's what he decided, and I was like, okay. So we go to round two, and I sit down. The I think the gentleman I was playing against was from Spring Hill, Tennessee. Baba Blue. This is the first time I've seen this deck. 30 hit point base, so no ECL. Um, it was, I will say it's an interesting build. It definitely, of course, and I will say, I saw a lot of vigilance today. A lot of vigilance. Even at six, it's pretty stupid. Um, so this is running a full on control build of Baba, and the I had gotten out a little too fast, um, and by the time that he had caught up somewhat on units, I was so far ahead that it was very easy for me to win to finish him off. Um, and he wanted a picture of the deck list because his son's favorite character was Leia or deck, and so we laid it all out for him to get a picture. Um, a really cool dude. Round three. So I played it table two, table one, table one. So Luke Green is, as you have already heard, an atrocious matchup for me because of the huge amount of healing that goes on. Um, and between the healing and the control elements, um, this this went downhill fast. Um, check my notes on that game. Uh, so game one, I got him all the way up to 25, and then he played Redemption and healed his base for 8, and I was completely out of steam, and he had uh, 2 more heal cards on the board, and so I scooped. Let's go to game two. Um, game two, if he's running a 25 hit point base, in both those games I win, but he was not. I got him to 25 again, and then um, he vigilanced and blew up my my one good unit and healed 5, and that was pretty much it at that point because he had lethal on board. Um, that game went about as about what I expected. Um, Round four, I played a gentleman who owns a game store in Arab, Alabama. Again, I apologize, I didn't catch the names, and I wasn't very good with trying to remember those names either, and I'm sorry. Um, and his wife was sitting right next to him playing. Um, they were both playing Sabine. He was playing Sabine red, so he was double red, and his wife was Sabine green ECL next to him. Uh, Agro Mirror goes Burr. Um, so here's the funny part. Um, I won the die roll for game one, uh, and he got out faster than me. I could get him to 29, and that's as close as I could get. Um, he got me to 27, and then four caused, and so I lose. Game two, I'm on the play. I have initiatives to start the game. Um, Once again, this was an absolute nail biter. I'm at 29. He's at 26, and I play my four cause, and of course, there's no misses in my deck, in my main deck. Um, um, so I win that game. Um, Game three, he does have lethal on board on me. Um, and once again, kept I kept hands um, with multiple four. It's like if I ended up drawing four calls, it did not get resourced. Period. In that match, but because I finished him off with another, because he was at 16. Um, I did I think it was either a double character Leia attack or a fleet lieutenant played into pumping Leia into attacking with another character, and I got 10 damage in and get him to 26. Um, and was able to finish him um, with another four cause. Um, in those matchups, Rebel Assault was key. Um, I may have played a home one or not a home one, but a Bright Hope in those games. It was memory's getting a little fuzzy. Um, but I do remember playing a General Dodonna and messing up some math. Um, but yeah, me drawing multiple for causes did not hurt. The final match before we cut to top eight was I played against a Vader Blue list gentleman from Murfreesboro. He and his partner were actually sitting beside one another. Um, Vader Blue, pretty. Um, I won't say it was pretty standard. Game one, um, I was I was much faster out of the gate. I'd put 8 damage on his base pretty quickly, and then he healed. He healed four. Then I quickly put 6 more damage on his base. Then 5 more damage on his base. And then lastly, I put um, 9 on his base at that point, and he did not have an answer. Um, and I played for cause and locked it up. Game two, he he ended up playing 2 vigilances in that game, and on turns where I couldn't, where I was like, um, I prioritized putting damage on base instead of playing Wolf first because I didn't want him blowing up something and messing up my attack routes. But wrong play, obviously. Um, so it is what it is. I ended up losing that game, and we went to game three, and he didn't. He mulliganed. Uh, in all 3 of these games, he mulliganed. He was intentionally looking for certain cards to make sure he had plays on 1 and 2 and 3, where he could singularly deal with units. Um, think the only thing he got really, he was able to he played to make an opening after me putting 3 damage on his base to um, deal with a unit. Um, and then I went 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 26, 29, and then yeah, all 3 of his vigilances were at the bottom of his deck that game. So um, that was rough. So they decided to cut the top 4, and I think that was partly the tournament software. Um, so I was the 1 seed, um, playing the 4th seed, Mike Reed. So Mike is a local. He plays um, at Alternate Dimensions in Tacoma, Tennessee, which is the store that I own. Both Mike and his wife came to play. Unfortunately, their little one was not act right, and so um, Rachel had to take her and take her home, unfortunately. Um, and so the other 2 players in top 4, there was a the was a the Luke Green deck that I had played in round 2 that crushed me, and then a Han Green uh, that I had not played, but I had sat beside 1 match. Mike had to leave because they were headed out of town, um, and he wanted to play. And I'll be honest with you, had we played, I fully expected Mike to beat me. There's no question about it. While Bobby Green is a terrible matchup, Luke Green is, if it is built properly, to skew heavy on the healing, to absolutely slow down aggro, then it's going to win. Um, I can only prevent you from healing so much, and I think it's a terrible matchup because and you start playing units out that are removing my guys. They're shielded, and I have to fight through shields. It's just terrible. Uh, since Mike had to leave, he conceded to me, um, and so I sat over a table away from the other 2 competitors. I already played the Luke Green uh, deck in round three, so I was hoping it was not him that I played in the finals, only because I knew that it was um, that it might not dang be an auto loss, but it's close. Um, Luckily for me, the gentleman playing Han Green won, and so we went to finals. He had a box from World Championships 2017 Fantasy Flight Games. Apparently, he had qualified for and played in um, X-Wings World Championship, as well as a Star Wars Destiny World Championship. So I knew that this was going to be a grind. This is somebody who has um, that has the ability, and um, so what really determined this match, game one, um, I ended up losing game one. I only got him to 17. It's nothing close. Game two. Uh, Game two, I'm blistering out of the gates. I, on consecutive turns, I hit him for five, for six more to 11, seven more to 18, um, four more to 22, and then seven more to 29. Uh, and then for a cause is lethal. Um, so in that match, I sided in in game two. I sided in both the Bright Hopes because I know he has a space package. He has wing leaders. He has falcons. Um, and then I wasn't sure what else he had at that point. It's all I saw. Um, Game three, other than the Sabine Red matchup, the this was an absolute close race. Um, so in this game, I had got him all the way up to 22. He ends up healing twice and go to 21 and then 19. Um, I end up claiming, and on the last turn, um, he has no ground sentinel in play. Uh, Let me back up. So he didn't have a space unit early. And when he finally got space units up to try to deal with Red 3, Green Squadron A Wing, um, he immediately plays out a Falcon, and my next play. Oh, I remember. Uh, so he ended up playing a Bright Hope. So I he's got Bright Hope in the skies. Okay. Um, Now my dudes can't get through. Well, then I on my um, regroup I draw two. I end up seeing Spec Force Soldier. So I'm like, okay, I already had a Bright Hope in my hand, but now I have a Spec Force Soldier. So my first action on my turn was to play out the Spec Force Soldier and give Bright Hope take away his Sentinel for the turn. Um, he then plays out a Falcon and then I play out my Bright Hope and return the Spec Force soldier to my hand. Now he can't hit either of my ships, and I can get into his base. Um, Next turn, I play the Spec Force again. Um, One of them has to go into Bright Hope and finish it off. Um, I attack base. He says, "You have a Sentinel." I'm like, "Nope, he's not a Sentinel this phase." And I know he's feeling tired because it's definitely a grind with Han. So I'm not surprised. But yeah, he think he was feeling a little frustrated, but he was doing his best. That's definitely a long day. Um, at any event, the um, the last turn of the game, I claimed I still had, yeah, I think I still had Leia out. So I swung with Leia and another character and dealt 8 to his base, taking him from 19 to 27. Now, the previous turn, he had attacked with everybody that he had and played a home one. Um, and I'm trying to remember what he got back with home one. Um, but in any event, home one now has, so he has restore two, and everything else has restore one. So this is close. Um, so he was at 27 after my attack. As long as he doesn't attack with Bright Hope, I'm sorry, home one as the first action, I'm holding for a cause and I win immediately. He debated it for a minute because I still had a a Bright Hope in play. Um, so he decides to waylay my red three, um, which I thought was definitely a weird play. But again, he, I can't see the rest of his hand. He has a he has Leader Han in play, and he has Han Solo 6X First Striker in play. I am at 23. 7 damage finishes me off. Um, if he in the sky, he still has Falcon and Home One and Bright Hope. So I can't get through in space at all as it sits. If he attacks with a ground unit and gets through, especially the first striking Han, that puts me to 29, and he heals one to go to 26. The only play that I saw that he could have made from my perspective was he attacks um, home one into Bright Hope, finishes Bright Hope, um, and restores two to go to 25. Now I have for a cause for four. Um, to put him at one. Now he has my Sentinel gone in space and the one in ground. He gets to attack with one other thing Um, um, like my space units are locked out. My ground units have already attacked. Um, so again, he can attack and heal one. That puts him at two. Um, Now it just so happens I was holding the uh, it was either the second or the third copy of For a Cause I Believe in, but I still would have been would have win, but I could see all those choices and scenarios, and um, I thought it was a fantastic game. It was very back and forth, and um, obviously I ended up pulling it out. Um, the I would have run the actual light side version of this, but I didn't have an extra copy at the time, so we ended up going with this one. I want to shout out um, my buddy Blake Edmondson for the tech in his deck because during that event, the Dodonas, the extra Rebel Assault, and the R2s were absolutely clutch because the R2s let me dig um, so that I could find the pieces that I need, whether it was for a cause I believe in or if it was Ewing reinforcements. The He was money all day. Um, the the rebel Pathfinders being Saboteur were very clutch. I was able to get by a few things. Um, the the Spec Force Ops, I didn't have to play it much, but that game three against Han was absolutely critical. And Bright Hope's bounce ability to draw a card. I was like, my hand was still full of gas when that game ended. That's how crazy that game was. Um, Bright Hope was in the matchup I needed it. I got it. All right, guys, what do you think of the list? I am very, as like I said, I love Leia aggro, and the action economy is fantastic. Getting to attack with basically take three actions at once. Um, Leia's action, an attack action is super good, and I think it's being slept on, guys. Um, uh, Thank you for joining us. Until next time, no matter the game, there is no escape.